Hey everybody, this is Rachel and I did my best practices over Kansas LINCS vocabulary strategies. What exactly is the LINCS vocabulary strategy? This is a strategy that can help students learn the meaning of a new vocabulary word or words by using powerful memory-enhancing techniques. There are steps to use to have students focus on the critical elements of this concept. Why should we use this strategy? By using the strategy, it can allow students to be able to define vocabulary words in an easier way. This way can allow students to come up with visuals to help them remember words that may be somewhat challenging or words that they may not be able to remember on their own. Research has even shown that the LINCS strategy can be effectively taught in mainstream settings to students with learning disabilities as well as normally achieving students. I think that is very important to know because not only will this strategy help with general education classrooms, it can also help in special education classrooms. So there are 5 steps to using the LINCS strategy. The first one is to start with a vocabulary word that we are wanting to define. It can either be on the spectrum of a hard word that they may not even know the meaning of at first, or an easy word to start out with, just to kind of get them used to the whole process. 2 is find a reminding word. So find a word that you can remind yourself of it. And then number 3 would be find a linking story. So the students would then find a story that would help them remember the vocabulary word. And then find a linking picture. So after they had said the story about the word, they would then draw a picture of it. And then number 5 would finally be you would have the definition of the vocabulary word. And how to implement the LINCS strategy in the classroom. To begin to do this in the classroom, the students will first need to select words that they are struggling with to remember and what other information is important to them in order for them to be able to learn those words. There are many different strategies to help the students do this kind of activity. And also we would want to use a strategy multiple times so the students would pick up on it and be able to help them in all subjects. So not only can this strategy be used in like language arts or writing, reading, etc., it can also be used in science, math, social studies, pretty much anything that you can think of that would have a vocabulary word in it. Here are some examples of the LINCS that can be used. The main one that I saw while I did my research was index cards. Students can use it on the front of the card would be the vocabulary word. And then you would turn it over on the back of the index card and it would be divided into 3 parts. The first part would be the important parts of the definition, so words or other words that would remind them of it. And then on the left-hand side of the index card would be a story using reminding words and the definition. So they would come up with a story again to help them remember the vocabulary word. And then on the right side of the index card would be the picture of the story. So that is where the visual comes into place, where the students can always have that visual picture of the vocabulary word, and that will help them to remember the word so much easier. So here's a little example of the index card. So to take the index card and divide both sides in half by drawing a line across the middle of both sides. On the back side, also make the line that makes a T on the bottom. So right here would be the vocabulary word, and then I guess you could also write it down here, I'm not really quite sure. And then on the back over here would be the important part up here, and then the story to the left-hand side, and then right here would be the picture. And here is also an example of the LINCS. It's not a index card, but I think it's also a good little worksheet that the students can use to be able to define definitions that are challenging to them. So some modifications for the strategy: if we were doing this activity, we could start with easy vocabulary words, just so the students get the hang of it, because sometimes whenever students are learning new vocabulary words, it can be very intimidating. And I think that by starting small, we could then build up to something big. And the second one would be, I could also ask the students things such as, what story or picture does the word make you think of? I could get the conversation started so they could understand what the assignment will entail them to do. So by getting them to think about the story that they would write down would also help them to get a good start on vocabulary words that they may be having trouble with. And the third one I put was continue having my students practice this and make the vocabulary words get progressively harder. So after they have learned the whole sequence of how to do the index cards, how to do the link strategy, they could then go on to bigger, better vocabulary words. Here is my resources, and that is all.